Officially welcome everyone. The Campus Kitchens Project Launch Grant Video Competition Info Session. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Schnarr, and I'm the Expansion and Partnerships Manager for the Campus Kitchens Project in DC. So I first just want to thank you all so much for being on this call and also for all the hard work you've already put in to this effort on your campuses. We are all really excited about getting this video competition started in a few weeks, and I hope you all are as well. While I think it's really great to foster a really healthy sense of competition, and we want to cover all that on this call, I just want to remind everyone that hopefully all of you, every school competing, will eventually be a part of the Campus Kitchen Network. That's really exciting for everyone, regardless of the outcomes of the competition. So this info session should be relatively quick, but it has a couple of purposes. One of which is to make sure everyone is really clear on how the competition will work. Logistically, so we're going to go over the logistics of the timeline, how to vote on the voting page, and everything else you'll need to know as you kind of get out the vote to your campus and community. The other important part of this webinar is to help you all prepare for getting out that vote and making sure that you are utilizing all the outlets to reach your audiences. And so for that portion, I brought in our resident social media and communications guru in the Campus Kitchens office, Linda Kurtz, and we will hear from her in a little bit about all of that. So if you go to the next slide for me. So before we jump right into it, I wanted to take one moment, though, to recognize our amazing sponsor of this grant competition, the Sodexo Foundation. Their commitment to ending hunger across the country is truly inspiring, and we're really excited and proud to be able to work with them again to provide these grants for you all. All right, next slide. So first, we're going to just talk about the basics of the competition. Some of this you probably already know. So the competition begins when we post your videos on our voting page on Monday, March 2nd at 12 noon. So you'll be able to start viewing and voting for your videos right at that time. So before then, you will not be able to view or vote them, but right then we'll open up that voting page. And the competition will run from March 2nd at noon till March 9th, where the voting will end at 11:59 a.m., so right before noon on Monday, March 9th. And the winners will be announced shortly after on that same day on March 9th. So the main page for voting is where you'll find the leaderboard, which actually, Linda, if you wouldn't mind pulling up that page, if you have that, just to kind of show an example of what this looks like. So the main page, which is campuskitchens.org/Sodexo, that's going to have the leaderboard of all the schools competing with their number of votes that continues to tally. And then under that, on that same page, has all the videos and all the schools that are competing. So the page that I think Linda's pulled up is an example of one from a few years ago, but it has the main idea there of having the leaderboard with all the lists of schools in order of ranking, and then below it randomly organizes the videos on that page for all the schools that are competing. So that main link to /Sodexo is a great link to use to, again, see the kind of entire competition as a whole. So if you want to go back to the Prezi again, but you also, each school, once you've submitted your video, will have a personalized link that goes directly just to your video. And so that link will be campuskitchens.org/ the name of your school. And that will just, that's a great thing to send out to anyone who wants to vote, because it takes them directly to your video and the ability to vote for your video. So again, you'll get that link when you submit your video at the end of next week. If you want to go on to the next slide.
Yep, and we have a question as we go to the next slide. How many schools usually compete?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it varies from anywhere to around 4 to 7. So I think at this point we're looking to have probably 5. There's a few things that need to fall out for a few of the schools remaining. For this time, it looks like we're going to have about 5 this time around, which is great. Thanks, Linda. All right, so again, just a little bit about the video. I know you guys are right in the midst of planning and getting all that ready for the video to be submitted. But just again, a reminder that that video is due February 27th. That's next Friday, no later than noon Eastern time. And that is a really, really harsh deadline, because we need to be able to process those videos, get them up on the page, and do a few things with that before the competition starts on Monday. So I really encourage you guys to be able to submit those videos sooner versus waiting till the very end, although that's totally fine if you need to wait till then. But we definitely have a hard stop on that Friday the 27th at noon. So again, we're here for support in any way. If you have questions or things come up, And actually, I'm going to hand it over to Linda for just a second to talk a little bit about the best ways to create these videos and just how to make them really look professional and compelling. So I'm going to actually let Linda go over those next two slides for you.
Great, thanks, Matt. So you received, this is just a screenshot of the PDF you all received from Matt already with our tips for creating a winning video. But if you need it again, please let Matt know, and he'll certainly send it to you. So we just have some basic tips after doing these competitions a couple of times of how to create a video that is most compelling to voters and has the added benefit of being a really great video that you can share with a variety of networks after you launch your Campus Kitchen. So something to think about as you're creating this video is not only how does it serve the purpose of your submission for this launch grant video competition, but how can it also serve as sort of an about the Campus Kitchen at whatever your school is after you launch, and sort of can be your initial info video, which might be helpful for you in the future. So you don't really need a very fancy camera to film this. We have a couple of suggestions on here what camera you would need. You can even use a phone, but our recommendation is that you do not film, if you're going to use an iPhone or any other smartphone, that you don't film a vertical video, that you turn your phone horizontally, because that will fill the screen better on YouTube and therefore our website, and you'll have a bigger video to view. We have a couple of editing tips for you on this sheet. I think the most important part on this page is what file format that we need you to submit your video to us in, which is any one of YouTube's supported file formats, which are listed here. And you can send it to us via Dropbox, Google Drive, or any sort of similar file sharing site. We will not accept links to videos already uploaded on YouTube. We need the original video file, and that's because we upload them to our YouTube page. So if you have any questions about that, you can let Matt know. And typically the files are too big to just plain old email, so that's why we recommend Dropbox or Google Drive. And then we have sort of our top 5 tips of content to include in your video, which is to demonstrate the need in your community. So why do you want a Campus Kitchen? What gaps exist in services that are already in your community that your Campus Kitchen might fill, and why should people vote for you? Similarly, what makes your school a good place to have a Campus Kitchen? What kind of support is on campus for you? How does it fit in the culture of your school? If you're, are you a service learning-oriented campus? How is it going to fit in? Next, we recommend that you show off that support that you have on campus and include a variety of staff and students and community members in your video, and show your school spirit to sort of rally your school voters. We have some recommendations here on correct terminology. So remember, when you're talking about your future Campus Kitchen in this video, that your Campus Kitchen will be called the Campus Kitchen at whatever your school name is. Our national organization is called the Campus Kitchens Project. So in your video, do say that you're hoping to start a Campus Kitchen, not that you're hoping to start the Campus Kitchens Project, because that's already happened. And then our final recommendation, is that you get one awesome shot that we can use as a screenshot for all of your social media images and other promotional materials for the competition. So think about what that sort of one comprehensive shot might be. Keep your video under 3 minutes in length, and use as much original content as possible so that you don't get any copyright infringement flagged by YouTube. And those are sort of the basics. If you have any specific questions about video and content, you can feel free to ask Matt, who may or may not forward your email to me, and we'd be happy to help you. These are just sort of our general tips.
Great. Thanks, Linda. Yeah, and just to reiterate, it's a short video. It has to be under 3 minutes, so this isn't like our feature-length film. And so I know this can sometimes be a little daunting, but there's some great examples. If you go to campuskitchens.org/videos and also /AARP from these are from past competitions. If you kind of want to see the examples of, these are well done, but they're not, they're not professional, but they're still just they're well done videos. So it's not something that students and staff can't put together relatively quickly without a whole lot of expertise in that area. So I think you can see some great examples of what is really compelling that we've done in the past. And I'm sure again, if you have specific questions or want to talk through kind of some ideas or need some guidance, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and myself or Linda can definitely help with that. All right, now I'm going to talk a little bit, if you go to the next slide, on how to actually vote and how to promote your videos to your campus and your community. So the only way to vote for your videos and to make your votes count for the leaderboard is to click the orange and gray Vote Now button, which you can see on our screen now. So it's either on the top or bottom of your video. So if anyone votes from the main page, the leaderboard page, if you go to the next slide, I'll zoom in on that video right there. It'll show the Vote Now button in gray and orange, and that's on the top of your video. That's what you will see on that main leaderboard page. So people can click that Vote Now button, and it will tally their vote. If you go to the next slide, then the other close-up, if you send them your direct link to the link with just your school name, that will take them directly just to your video. That Vote Now button will be on the bottom right, which you see right there. So that is the only way that you will have your votes counted during this competition. So it's really important to be really clear. I mean, pretty intuitive, but again, it's still good to make it really clear to show voters that those are the only two ways your votes will be counted. So if you go to the next slide window, we can see how not to vote. So it's important to be really clear to those you're promoting how they can vote. So if they click so under each video, you're going to see a tweet button, a like button, a share button, which are great for social media sharing. But if someone clicks the tweet button, or if someone clicks the like button right on your video, or if someone actually goes to the YouTube page and likes your video on our YouTube page, none of those will count towards the actual voting. So again, if they post something on Facebook, or if they use any of those direct tweet or share buttons, that'll help promote your video, but that will not tally your votes. So make sure they're really clear that you want them to do both. You want them to vote for your video and then also be able to share your video on social media platforms to get it out to others. So let's see. And Lynn's going to talk a little bit more about how those tweet and share buttons actually work and what they do on each video, because they're really good to utilize, but just make sure that you know that the only way to vote is to click that gray and orange Vote Now button on your page. So yeah, Linda, you want to go to, oops, not zooming in, but the next actual slide on voting rules. So the main thing you need to know as you promote your video is that the voting system that we use limits one vote per person per IP address per day. So what that means is that a single person can vote from their same computer, device, or phone only once every 24-hour period. That's something to make sure people understand, is that during this competition, they can vote basically 7 times per device that they own. So the only time that this becomes an issue, and we have run into this in the past on campuses, is if you're trying to vote from a group of computers that share one IP address, say perhaps in a computer lab, or if there's one network for a certain building, sometimes that limits where if someone votes from that IP address in that lab, then it makes it seem that all the computers have done that, so it limits that other people can vote. So it's an unfortunate limitation, although you need to know that that limitation, again, not being ideal, is the same for everyone who's participating. So everyone's going to be running that same issue, and there's other ways, again, to using personal phones, using tablets or computers, or doing it from your home. There are other ways to make sure that your vote counts for that day. So again, I want to reiterate that while this is a competition, and we want there to be a healthy sense of that, we want to remember that at some point, all of those that are participating will be part of the CKP network and the CKP family. So any form of cheating will definitely be grounds for disqualification. So that means you're prohibited from obtaining voting from any fraudulent or inappropriate means, which can include anything like offering prizes or other incentives to prospective voters. So as we monitor the votes that come in, the voters, votes that are received from an IP address that exceeds 7 times will be counted void. So any use of any script or macro or robotic or automated systems to vote with the intent to impair the integrity of the voting process is prohibited, and all of those votes will be void. So basically that goes to say, let's try to keep this as clean as possible. I don't think we have to worry about that at all, but we just need to let's say that out loud now to make sure that you guys know the repercussions of if something like that is to happen. And so to definitely pass that along to your voters in your campus to make sure that they're just doing what they can do, which is by voting once a day per device. So before we move on, are there any questions about what we've covered thus far that you could type in the chat box? Probably the easiest way to do it at this point.
I'll actually unmute everyone if anyone wants to ask a question out loud. Go for it.
That works too. Okay.
I actually had a question. How many schools get the grant money at the end?
Oops, it looks like we have a little echo. Sorry. Say it again.
How many schools get the grant money at the end, and how much
Yeah.
exactly is the grant money?
So we're actually going to cover that. And just if you don't mind me waiting, I'm going to cover that in just a little bit, and we'll go into all the details of that.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions right now?
Unmuted.
Any other questions right now? Great. Well, clearly you can still type in the text box if questions come up, and we'll have some time at the end too. But I'm going to actually let Linda take over again to talk a little bit more about general outreach and some best practices for getting the vote out for your audiences.
Great. So we provide you with a few different materials to help you get out the vote, especially on social media, as all of you work with different campus groups and organizations and your family and friends, et cetera, to get out the vote for your future campus kitchen. So one of the things that we provide are a whole page of sample social media posts for both Facebook and Twitter. And you can see a couple of them here. Note that these have been slightly updated to reflect schools that we think may participate / have participated in the past, and they will be customized to fit your school and your group participating. So you'll see here there's a couple of different prospective tweets, and then at the bottom there is a sample Facebook post that we share as well. In addition, we also share with you all customized social media images. So the first one that you see is an image that's meant for Twitter. That's the ideal size for an image to go in the Twitter timeline. And so you'll receive an image that will look different than this, and will have the correct sponsor logo on it. But we'll have your university name, vote for whoever to win $5,000 to start a campus kitchen. And then the photo you see at the bottom is a photo or image meant for Facebook and Instagram. And so you'll also receive one that is branded slightly differently that will match the Twitter image that will have your school. And that's, as I was talking about the screenshot we take from your video earlier, that's one of the ways that we use that screenshot. This is a screenshot from a video that UW-Madison submitted to participate in our last competition last fall. So like I said, we provide you with the sample posts and these images customized for your campus kitchen. Something that we try to do, knowing who your sponsoring offices and other organizations or on-campus offices that are supporting you, is also include the Twitter handles of all of those organizations. So you have everything sort of right in one place for you. And you'll receive these items by, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, we said by the Monday of the competition week?
I think, basically as soon as, when you submit your video, we'll be able to get those to you relatively quickly, but at the latest we'll get them to you by the 27th, by that deadline.
Great. Perfect.
Yep.
So one of the reasons we encourage you to submit your video sooner rather than later, if you are able, is that you'll in turn get these back sooner rather than later, which clearly doesn't mean that your voting starts earlier, but it means that there's a faster turnaround if you want to start planning. We also provide you with some suggestions for how to do some outreach on campus. I don't even know what my next slide is. Yeah, that's that. Perfect. So there's a lot more suggestions than is just on this slide, but we encourage you, and this is actually a great time to start, to brainstorm what are other departments on campus that you get in touch with to see if they would help share your video and get out the vote for you. So is that alumni relations? Is it sports teams? Is it other organizations? Is it the Office of Service Learning, if that's not your sponsoring office, or even if it is, that would be even better. And give them the sample post that we give you to empower them to share it. So it's much easier to ask someone, hey, would you share this on social media for me, and give them a post and give them an image that you'd like them to use, instead of just asking them to share and then putting it on them to come up with the content for them to share on their social media pages. We also suggest sooner rather than later that you reach out to your school's media relations department or university relations to see if they'll help with outreach. So does that look like them contacting your local paper to see if they'll write about it, and see what other ideas that your university relations department might have for you to get out the vote in your community. Similarly, you might want to get in touch with your school media, so your student paper, student radio station, student TV station, et cetera, and see if they'll cover you. Lots of campus kitchens that have done this in the past have had great success with that. So just overall, be brainstorming who might share your video, again, and it might be off campus, it might be your family and friends, and give them a heads up that the competition is coming. You'd love their support. Not only can they support you by voting, they can support you by sharing the opportunity to vote with their networks.
And I might jump in really quickly with a couple other random. So I was just thinking about what some schools have done in the past that have been really successful as well. We've had some schools that have done a little more on-the-ground work where they've gone, spoken to different classes and said, hey, everyone pull out their phone. I mean, if this is okay with the teacher, obviously, pull out your phones, vote for us, here's the website, do it now. So they would go around to different classes, go around to different clubs. They would tap into their, if they have a weekly newsletter, it goes out to all, or even daily newsletter, it goes out through email to all the student body with like news. They got that in there for that whole week. If they have an alumni newsletter or alumni some kind of listserv, they were able to tap into that through the alumni department, or even faculty as well. They've done like faculty newsletter or email blasts. Some people even stood outside the student center with a computer and say, hey, come on and, or I guess not a computer, but with information and saying, hey, pull your phone, here's the link, will you vote for us? Being really a little more aggressive with it. But I think we've seen a lot of success with schools have even, gotten really excited about it and been able to get some at their school to post, have even some news about it on their school's homepage. Or, so I think big here because we've seen some pretty high numbers of in terms of votes over the last couple of years when we've done this because we've really been able to tap a lot of the different networks that you guys already have built in on campus. So be thinking about that when you do that initial brainstorming.
Absolutely. And then another thing that we'd like you all to know is that we create an outreach calendar for our own national social media channels, and we feature each competitor on one day of the competition. It will likely be in alphabetical order, and the first day will likely be just general national promotion of the competition itself. Then the following days will probably be one day for each school in alphabetical order, and then the last day will probably be another national push. But that schedule will come, and we will let you know what your day is in case you'd like to share what we post on Facebook with your own networks. So just so you know, we do equal opportunity outreach, but we will have a specific day for our own national channels where we promote your video and promote what your school is hoping to do by opening a campus kitchen.
Awesome. Okay, well, if you want to move on, we'll talk about the good stuff, the money. All right, so it's important to really understand the various installments of the grant that you're going to win. And show also how you can use the money. So to answer the original question, there are going to be 3 grants awarded, each of $5,000, that are going to be payable in various increments. And they can be used as you can see on the screen. So I'll talk a little bit about those various installments. So right when we pick the winners and the school is able to sign our contract that they've already pre-vetted through signing the letter of intent that got them to qualify for this competition, right when we get that back, the school will be issued the first installment of $1,500, which originally is designated to be used for a planning fellow, but there is some flexibility with that. I'll explain really quickly. Our idea there, if your school is or your campus kitchen is going to be heavily planned by students, and they might need maybe a little extra incentive to really get the planning process complete in that amount of time, the remaining planning process, it's sometimes going to be good to basically hire a planning fellow. Sometimes this doesn't make sense for some schools that maybe have great staff support or might have a great student leadership team already that's ready to do this without that incentive. So we're definitely flexible in terms of being able to use that initial installment for other things, and we'll have conversations about that if you are chosen. But note that's what it's originally designated for. But again, there is a lot of flexibility with that. So that's the first $1,500 is issued immediately after you sign our contract. Then basically what needs to be happening then is you guys will basically be finishing the rest of the planning on the campus kitchen planner. So the second installment of $800 is issued basically when you get to the point near the end of the planner where you're going to be purchasing materials and supplies for your campus kitchen. That's sometimes near the end of the process where you really get down to the nitty-gritty logistics. So at that point, when we have that conversation about starting to think about various supplies that you might need to purchase, there's $800 that installment will go for supplies and equipment, like things like disposables, like hairnets and gloves and things you're going to be using on a daily or weekly basis, and even bigger things that you might need to buy only once, like inflated bags or different pans and things that you might not be able to share with dining services or your kitchen. Again, some of that first $1,500 can also be used for supplies if that makes more sense, but the $800 is issued directly for that. The third installment of $1,200 is received in an in-kind format where basically that is covering your launch visit. We will send one of our staff members from the national office to your school for a 2 to 3 to 4 day launch visit where you actually set up, start, and launch your campus kitchen, and we're there to provide basically the oversight and to make sure that the program is set up correctly, and we meet with all the various stakeholders on and off campus. And again, kind of officially launch your campus kitchen. And obviously, we'll be talking a lot more. You'll be talking a lot more with me through that to make that process happen. But that $1,200 the first chunk of that will go to cover our staff coming. But then there's always a remainder money that we don't use for that trip that you will receive just in cash for any purpose that you might need for that. And then once you've successfully launched your campus kitchen and we've done your setup launch visit, you'll get the remaining balance of $1,500 that is just to be used to ensure the overall financial stability moving forward of your campus kitchen. So it really doesn't have a whole lot of qualifiers as how that can be used. So again, that's the breakdown of the installments. There is flexibility within that, and it's obviously we'll be in close contact. If you are one of the winners, we'll have biweekly calls with the leaders of that planning campus kitchen to make sure that everything's on track and that we're keeping things moving. So obviously there's ways to make this work in various ways, and we are flexible with that funding, but this is how we break it down, at least at this point. So let's see. Great. I think we can move to the next slide. Yeah. So lastly, I just want to remind you all to really keep the momentum up when you're as you build and go through this week-long competition. A lot of schools, and the money is obviously the main driving factor here for wanting to do this competition. But what we've learned over the years of doing this competition is that this competition, this week-long kind of getting out the vote, is one of your best PR opportunities to really get the name of your campus kitchen out on campus and in the community. We have seen some of these campus kitchens that have done this competition that are relatively new, they finish the competition, whether they win or not, with more support from campus and community members than some of our campus kitchens that have been around our network for years. So it's a really great way, like Linda said in the beginning, using this video and using this push and really putting it all out there for that week. It gets your name out there where people know, or at least have heard of what a campus kitchen is. So you're talking to your future volunteer base about students. You're talking to potential partners in the community. You're talking to potential donors on campus and in the community. So really use this, and I think it happens somewhat naturally. Obviously, the more you reach out and the more broadly you reach out on your campus and the community. But remember to really keep up the momentum of the competition. So that being said, it's important to set a launch date and stick to that. And now you'll be working with me after the fact, if you win or not. But if you win one of the grants, you should set your launch date to realistically, but the only really caveat there is if you win one of these grants, you'll have to launch your campus kitchen by September 31st of 2015. So that gives a nice little bubble, and these grants are really for the planning of your campus kitchen. We're not giving these grants, necessarily to schools that are the most ready to launch immediately. It's really to be used to, plan and then implement your campus kitchen. So you have until September 31st. Obviously, you can launch any time before then, but that's the final date to do so. If you do not launch by then, you're not going to receive the remainder of the funds, and you may be forced to return the amount of the grant that was already paid. I'm not worried about that. I'm sure you'll all have plenty of time and launch before then, but just know that is the final date to do so. It's written in through the grant. So again, remember that even if you don't get one of the 3 grants, you can and hopefully still will launch your campus kitchen. In fact, every single school that has ever participated in one of our competitions, even if they didn't receive a grant, still launched their campus kitchen at some point, which is a really cool thing. Again, I think it's really a testament to how great this competition is to be used in terms of the PR tools, because many of those campus kitchens that didn't receive the funding were able to receive alternate funding from either their school or community because of all the hype and the PR that came from participating in the competition. So also campus kitchen, we have other opportunities for funding that will continue. We will continue to work with any school to help you get to be a part of our network. We really want this to be the end goal is for you to join the Campus Kitchen Network. The grant obviously is a great incentive and a great kind of launch board, but we're going to be there to help you guys regardless throughout this entire process. And also just remember that you've already done a lot of the hard work. Getting that foundational support in place that you guys have done and are working on by getting those letters of support really is kind of the most difficult part. The rest is really just following the path of the Campus Kitchen Planner and then figuring out the logistics of your particular Campus Kitchen. And you'll have the support of our staff throughout all of that. So yeah, that's pretty much most of the information that we have right now. I know that some of you might be waiting on some of the final bits and pieces of your qualifying documents, including probably your letter of intent with administration and our contract. So please just keep me updated. We definitely need to have those in as soon as possible. But if everything else is in line and we know we have a good update on whose hands that contract is in and a timeline for when we're going to be getting that, we can still allow a school to compete in the competition, but just knowing that if by the time the competition ends and you do receive one of the grants and you still don't have that contract in, we're not going to be able to award you that grant, and it's going to go to another school. So, I mean, first and foremost, you really be pushing it this week and next, and keep me in the loop. If you have any questions at all, I can be really helpful in being able to connect directly to those that you might be working with that might have questions like administration and other staff. So just the biggest thing here is to keep me updated as things progress. And also same with the video. Be sure to let me know if you run into any issues or snags with the video, and we can definitely want to be as helpful for you all with that as well. And remember that video is due no later than February 27th at noon. That's next Friday. So yeah, I think that is basically all that this call will have. I'm going to let Linda unmute everyone again, and if anyone has questions, feel free to voice those now.
Do you have an office there? You should. Although we're just so
and if not, I think most of you should have my email address. If you don't, I'd be more than happy, and Linda maybe can type that in the chat box right now. So if anyone doesn't happen to have that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions over email that come up as you kind of continue this week and next. But any questions right now? Cool, and just note that this session has been recorded, so I will send that out hopefully this afternoon.